He pulled a gun on the wrong man and got exposed in front of everyone. It was a Tuesday morning, late enough that the roads near Spartanburg were already jammed with people chasing coffee and dragging themselves to meetings they didn't want to be in. At a Chevron station just off East Blackstock Road, a black SUV pulled in, low-profile government plates. From the driver's seat stepped a tall, composed man in his 40s. Charcoal suit, crisp white shirt, no tie. Just a discreet earpiece and a barely visible silver badge tucked at his waist. He moved like someone used to walking through secure doors and being waved past checkpoints. His name was Quentin Dre. He wasn't there to linger. Just needed one thing, a cup of black coffee. No snacks, no distractions. As he stepped out of the convenience store, coffee in hand, a patrol cruiser pulled in fast, tires screeching, wheels cutting sharp. The driver? Deputy Ray Denlow. Broad-chested, buzz-cut mirrored sunglasses, even though the sky was overcast. He clocked the SUV, the suit, and instantly decided something didn't sit right. "You with that vehicle?" Denlow barked, already out of his car, one hand resting on his holstered weapon. "Yes, sir," Quentin replied calmly. "Keys." Denlow stepped closer. "Got registration? What's your name?" Quentin gave a slight nod. "I'm on official duty. I can show you." "I asked for your name," Denlow snapped, voice rising. His hand now fully gripped the weapon at his side. A few people started watching, customers at the pumps, someone with a phone near the car wash. Quentin's tone remained steady. "Deputy Chief Quentin Dre, United States Secret Service." Instead of backing off, Denlow's posture grew more aggressive. "Everybody's got a story," he sneered. "Nice suit. That your cousin's ride. You steal it." "I can reach for my credentials slowly," Quentin said, unmoving. "They're in my jacket." Denlow scoffed. "You think I haven't seen fake badges?" Then, without warning, he drew his gun. A woman near Pump 2 gasped. "Hands where I can see them," he shouted. Quentin didn't argue. He set the coffee down gently, then knelt on the pavement, fingers interlocked behind his head. "My badge is in my left inside pocket," he said evenly. "I am not a threat." Denlow wasn't listening. He chuckled, circling like a predator. "What is this, a movie? Bet you got backup in that SUV. Recording me with your little team." Quentin stayed silent. The growing crowd didn't. Cameras were out. Phones were recording. Then Denlow made a critical mistake. He opened the SUV. No warrant. No cause. Inside, he found no weapons, no drugs, just a secured laptop and a clearly displayed government ID clipped inside the glove compartment. "You just opened a secured federal vehicle without probable cause," Quentin said, loud enough for the crowd. Denlow narrowed his eyes. "Yeah, and you just impersonated a federal officer." That's when another black SUV pulled in. Quiet engine, tinted windows. Denlow didn't notice, but someone inside that vehicle had seen everything. Quentin stayed still. His calm demeanor was unshaken, even with a gun still aimed at him. Then the door of the second SUV opened, and out stepped a tall woman in all black, light brown skin, eyes sharp, an earpiece in place. She didn't hesitate. "Dre status?" she asked. Quentin answered without moving. "Non-compliant local officer. Drawn weapon. Unauthorized search of a federal vehicle. I have not resisted." She turned to Denlow, fire in her voice. "You want to explain what the hell you're doing?" Denlow turned, gun slightly lowered. "Who are you?" "Senior Agent Kendra Moss. United States Secret Service. That man is my superior." The mood shifted instantly. Denlow stammered. He said he was Secret Service. "I wasn't going to just take that at face value." "You pulled a gun on a federal officer," Moss said coldly. "That's not skepticism. That's a felony." For a moment, Denlow looked like he might argue again, but then another SUV pulled into the station. Faster. This time, two men in suits stepped out. No sunglasses. No questions. One of them, older, gray at the temples, approached Quentin directly. "Deputy Chief Dre, are you injured?" "No, sir," Quentin replied, still on his knees. Body cams are rolling. Multiple civilian recordings. Local officer failed to verify identity before drawing his weapon. "Confirmed," the agent replied. Agent Moss looked at him. "You can stand, sir." Quentin rose slowly, dusted off his suit. Calm, controlled. Like nothing had happened. Like he was heading into a briefing room, not walking away from the business end of a loaded firearm. But Denlow still didn't back down completely. He faced the agents, puffing out his chest. "You people don't get to roll in here expecting special treatment. I did what I thought was right." "You thought wrong," the older agent said flatly. "And now you're the subject of a federal misconduct investigation." Someone in the crowd called out, "I got the whole thing on video." Another echoed, "He had that gun on him the whole time." And just like that, the cop who thought he was in control became the story caught on camera. Surrounded, outnumbered, and dead wrong. Officer Ray Denau stood frozen in place, the confidence that once filled his chest now draining fast under the weight of too many watching eyes. He scanned the parking lot, the smartphone still recording, the agents closing in, and the crowd no longer curious, but clearly angry. "I didn't mean anything by it," Denau said, his voice shifting, the bravado slipping. "I had reason to believe." "No," Kendra cut him off, stepping forward. Her voice was razor-sharp. "You didn't have reason. You had bias. And now you've got a situation." Quentin Dre turned to face him fully for the first time. Calm as ever, voice cool and steady, like he was reciting the forecast. "I was getting coffee," he said. "You decided I didn't belong. That's what this is." Denau didn't answer. He didn't have to. His silence said everything. His cheeks flushed, jaw tight, eyes darting toward the growing circle of witnesses. The gas station was no longer just a pit stop. It was a live courtroom, and the jury was everywhere. Near the store entrance, a young woman whispered to her friend, but it wasn't really a whisper anymore. "He really pulled a gun on that guy and laughed at his badge." And just like that, it was out in the world. Posts were going up. Captions like, "Black Secret Service agent harassed by cop in Spartanburg." Videos shared before Denau even had time to holster his weapon. But this wasn't just another viral moment. It was now official. The law was watching, and it wasn't on Denau's side. 3 minutes after Quentin stood up, the parking lot shifted from tense to tactical. No yelling, no cuffs yet, but the weight in the air was unmistakable. Heavier, more deliberate. The man with gray temples stepped forward again, holding out his badge. "Supervisory Special Agent Lyle Mercer, United States Secret Service," he said, firm and clear. "Deputy Denau, you will surrender your weapon and step away from Deputy Chief Dre. Now." Denau blinked like he'd misheard. "You're serious?" "We're not asking," Mercer replied. "This stop was unauthorized. The weapon draw was unjustified. You entered a secured federal vehicle without probable cause. You're now under administrative detainment pending full review." For a heartbeat, Denau stood too still. Then, just a twitch, his hand moved toward his belt. Reflex, maybe, but not a good one. 2 agents behind Mercer stepped forward immediately. No weapons drawn, just presence. Enough to shut down any bad idea in its tracks. Kendra's voice came sharp and controlled. "Don't make this worse for yourself." And in that moment, Denau finally saw it. Not guilt, just realization. The face of someone who thought they were in control, until they weren't. Slowly, he unclipped his holster, pulled the gun, and handed it, grip first, to Mercer. One of the agents took it and stepped back. "Hands where we can see them," Mercer instructed. Denau complied, shoulders stiff, still trying to posture like this was normal, like it wasn't unraveling. Kendra turned to Quentin. "You good, sir?" Quentin nodded once. Better now. And for a second, it was quiet, not silent. A gas pump beeped. A semi roared past on the highway. Somebody's phone rang inside the store. But the silence between people, that was thick. Then a voice from the crowd. "Y'all seeing this? Get his badge number." A man near Pump 7 raised his phone high. "I got the whole thing, man. From the start. You want it? I'll send it." Mercer looked over. "We'll want every copy. Our team will be in touch." "Are you taking him in?" Someone called out. "No," Mercer said. "Not yet. We're processing this right here." And then came the next wave. 2 unmarked black sedans rolling in. Engines low, windows tinted. Homeland Security had clearly been alerted the second Quentin's badge pinged during the confrontation. Now Danao looked small. Not in size, but in presence. His badge didn't shield him anymore. It didn't command the room. It didn't matter. Not here. Mercer walked up again. "Deputy, you'll sit in that vehicle while we complete initial documentation. You'll be monitored and recorded." Danao opened his mouth to object. This isn't how things are done around here." Mercer didn't blink. Exactly the problem. Without another word, Danao walked to the unmarked sedan and got in. And for the first time all morning, no one was watching Quentin Dre with suspicion. They were watching him with respect. As the agents moved back toward their vehicles, Mercer leaned in, lowering his voice so only Quentin could hear. "We'll have the preliminary documentation wrapped by noon. But the media's going to run with this. You ready for that?" Quentin let out a slow breath. Steady. Controlled. "I didn't ask for this kind of attention." "You didn't," Mercer said. "But it found you anyway." Across the parking lot, a young man pointed his phone directly at himself, still filming. "Yo, this just blew up. Dude was just getting coffee." Local cop pulled a gun. Secret Service stepped in. "It's real out here, y'all." And it was only getting more real. The headlines were just the beginning. The video, raw and undeniable, had already reached 4 major news outlets before noon. The first viral clip came from an account called Lolo Upstate, a grainy but clear 30-second recording. It showed Officer Danao aiming his weapon as Quentin knelt calmly on the asphalt. The caption read, "He told him he was Secret Service." Dude laughed. "Guess who's in cuffs now?" Within the hour, it had over 50,000 shares. Inside the Field Command SUV near Pump 8, Quentin sat flanked by Kendra, Mercer, and a DHS liaison named Rachel Fenwick. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, eyes flicking to her tablet where wave after wave of civilian footage poured in. "We've confirmed 5 different videos from bystanders," Rachel reported. 3 of them are clean, no edits, full audio. Straight uploads. Mercer turned to Quentin. "You want to go on record today, or wait for official channels?" "No press," Quentin said, shaking his head. "Not now. If people want the truth, they can wait for the full report." "You're going to get pressure," Mercer warned. "Public, political, internal. We've already got MSNBC, The Hill, and 2 local stations asking for your name." Quentin didn't flinch. Let them guess. For now. Across the lot, Danao sat in the back of an unmarked sedan, not cuffed, but visibly rattled. His department liaison, a red-faced man named Lieutenant Byrd, paced in angry circles, muttering into his phone, as if he could walk the whole incident back. Inside the gas station, the clerk, a wiry man with a goatee named Aaron, stood behind the counter, arms crossed, eyes locked on the drama outside. When approached by an agent for a statement, Aaron didn't hesitate. "I've seen that cop before. Danao. Always seemed twitchy. Had a meltdown once, 'cause I wouldn't open the beer fridge early." "Did you witness today's incident?" "From the start," Aaron said. "At first I thought it was a robbery. Then I saw the dude kneel and say he was Secret Service. That's when I grabbed my phone, but the lady agent rolled up before I could film anything good." "Would you be willing to give a formal statement?" Aaron nodded slowly. "Yeah. I don't want something like that happening to me, just 'cause I wear a jacket someone doesn't like." Back inside the SUV, Kendra studied Quentin. "You sure you're okay?" He gave a short nod. "I'm used to watching this kind of thing happen to other people, not being in the middle of it." "You handled it like a machine." "I had to," Quentin said. "If I moved too fast, I'd be the story. But not the headline kind, the funeral kind." Mercer said nothing for a moment, then turned to Rachel. "Status on Danao. Placed on administrative leave. No badge, no weapon, no system access. IA is opening a parallel investigation. Governor's office called yet?" "Not yet, but give it an hour. Maybe less." Outside, the crowd had mostly dispersed. A few lingered, hoping for another moment to catch on camera. Most had already left, with stories they'd tell at dinner, or post on Facebook by nightfall. Near a red sedan, a woman with silver braids leaned into her window and said to her daughter, "You see that man? That's how you hold your ground without losing your soul." Inside the SUV, Quentin sat quietly. No anger, no ego, just the stillness of someone processing the weight of what had just happened. "This isn't just about me," he said at last. "This happens all the time. The only difference is, I had a badge and backup. Most people don't." Kendra rested her hand gently on the seat in front of her, and that's exactly why it matters that the whole country saw it happen. But this wasn't the end of the conversation. By early afternoon, the hashtag Quentin Dre had taken over social media. He stayed calm. They tried him. They failed. How many times has this happened when no one was filming? Cable news anchors dissected the footage on repeat. Headlines flashed across screens. Black Secret Service agent detained at gunpoint. Local cop draws weapon on federal officer. Caught on camera. And just like that, the small town of Spartanburg had become the epicenter of a national reckoning. Inside a DHS command center, Quentin now sat at a long steel table. Legal advisors on one side, communication officers on the other. Papers shuffled. Phones buzzed. "You're not staying anonymous," said Marion Cho, a DHS media counsel. "We won't be able to keep your name out of it any longer." And with that, the next chapter of Quentin Dre's life began. By the time Quentin entered the briefing room, his photo was already everywhere. "Your high school yearbook picture's been posted," Cho said, tapping her tablet. "Local paper confirmed your identity. CNN wants a live interview. PBS. Even one of those morning lifestyle shows." Quentin leaned back in his chair, rubbing his forehead. "I never asked to be the face of anything." "But you are," Cho said gently. "Even if you never say a word, the footage already did." Across the room, a muted TV played the now viral clip. Quentin, calm and still, kneeling on the pavement. Officer Denlow's gun trembling, just inches from his head. The sound was off, but the silence was louder than words. The door opened, and a field agent entered with a manila folder. "Preliminary review of Officer Denlow's personnel file," she announced. "Multiple complaints for aggressive conduct. 2 use-of-force cases in the last 5 years. No suspensions. Every complaint closed with no formal discipline." Cho shook her head. "That's going to be a feeding frenzy once the networks get a hold of it." Quentin stood and moved toward the window. Outside, the street was alive. Press vans parked end to end. Protesters held handmade signs. Strangers stood on tiptoe, just trying to glimpse the man they'd seen in the clip. He'd protected presidents, traveled under deep cover, worked through classified threats. But this felt more dangerous, more exposed. A knock. The door opened. Director Herman Blake stepped in, salt and pepper hair, sharp eyes, and the kind of authority that didn't need to shout. "Mind if I speak with you alone?" The room emptied without hesitation. Blake leaned against the edge of the table. "You handled it better than most would have," he said. "Hell, better than I would have." "I didn't see a choice," Quentin replied. "He made one. I reacted." Blake nodded. "I've met officers like Denlow. They never expect real consequences. Not unless someone bleeds. But this time no one did. And that matters." Quentin exhaled slowly. "It shouldn't only matter because I survived." Blake looked at him for a long moment. "You want to stay quiet, disappear after this? I'll back you. But I think people need to hear from someone who didn't lose his cool, who didn't raise his voice, who did everything right, and still got profiled at gunpoint." Quentin glanced again at the TV. This time, the screen showed 2 side-by-side images, his federal ID and the frame where he knelt on the asphalt, eyes calm, danger inches away. The scroll at the bottom read, "Secret Service agent mistaken for suspect. Officer under investigation. National uproar intensifies." He turned back to Blake. "Then I'll say something. But it'll be one time. One statement. No spin." "Understood." When Blake left, Quentin sat back down. A legal pad lay in front of him. He stared at the blank page, then picked up his pen. Outside, the world got louder. Honking cars. Raised signs. Badge justice. "We saw you." Microphones shoved in agents' faces. But inside that room, Quentin began to write, not from anger, but from clarity, because what he was about to say wouldn't be a soundbite. It would be the truth. 3 days later, the small community hall on Spartanburg's east side was packed. Folding chairs, no stage, no flags, no fanfare. Just about 200 people and a modest PA system. Quentin stood behind a simple wooden podium. No suit this time, just slacks, a black sweater, sleeves rolled. His voice was steady, serious, not hardened. "I've spent over 15 years protecting people who will never know my name," he began. "That's the job. You blend in. You stay sharp. You don't bring attention to yourself. But last week, attention found me anyway." Phones rose silently. Every word mattered now. I wasn't mistaken for someone dangerous. I wasn't confused for a threat. I was judged in seconds. Not because of what I did, but because of what someone thought they saw. He paused, not for drama, but to find the words that didn't hurt to say. "I don't hate that officer. I'm not even angry anymore. What I feel is disappointment. Deep disappointment that someone who took the same oath I did looked at me and saw something he decided didn't belong." In the front row, a group of high school students leaned in, silent, watching. You've seen the video. Some of you recorded it. But the moment that mattered most wasn't captured. It was when I realized I had to choose who I was going to be, while someone else tried to decide who I wasn't. His hands rested lightly on the podium. If I had yelled, if I had moved too fast, if I'd said one wrong word, I might not be standing here. And that should terrify us all. A ripple moved through the room, quiet agreement, heavy and real. My niece asked me, "Uncle Q, why do people treat us different if we didn't do anything wrong?" She's 12, and I didn't have an answer, not one that felt right. He breathed. But I told her this. When someone else lowers the standard, you raise yours. When someone loses their temper, you keep your ground. You show the world who you are, even when they try to rewrite your story before it begins. The crowd clapped. Not loud, not performative, just enough to say we heard you. Afterward, Quentin stayed behind, shaking hands, answering quietly spoken thanks. An elderly man, with thick glasses, approached slowly. "I was a police officer in this town for 31 years, he said. "What happened to you? It embarrassed me. But hearing you speak reminded me who the badge is supposed to protect." Quentin nodded. "Thank you, sir. That means a lot." Later that night, at his sister's kitchen table, his niece Briar colored in silence. Then, softly, without looking up, she asked, "Did people believe you today?" "I think so," Quentin said. She kept coloring, but her hand moved a little slower, a little more carefully. Sometimes, the truth doesn't need to be shouted. It just needs to be spoken, once, clearly, and with courage. And that's exactly what Quentin had done. "Do you think it'll happen again?" Quentin didn't answer right away. His eyes stayed on the fading light outside the kitchen window. "I think there will always be people who make the wrong assumptions," he said finally. "But I also think more people are watching now. Learning. Listening." Briar looked up from her coloring for the first time. "You didn't yell." "No," he said quietly. "But I spoke loud enough." And that was what lingered, not the footage, not the headlines, not the chaos outside the gas station. What endured was the voice of a man who refused to let someone else define him. The internal investigation took 2 weeks. Officer Ray Denau was suspended without pay, pending a disciplinary hearing. His once-overlooked patrol record was now under review. Complaints that had been dismissed as misunderstandings were starting to look like a pattern. The department issued a carefully worded statement. "The incident is regrettable. We are reviewing community engagement protocols." It didn't say much, and people noticed. Quentin said nothing. He didn't go on talk shows. He didn't sell his story or launch a social media campaign. He went back to work. 3 weeks after the Chevron incident, he stood in front of another group, but this time, it wasn't journalists or protesters. It was a classroom of federal trainees in Gleno, Georgia. Young faces, sharp eyes, fresh ambition. He looked around the room. "Your job," he said, "isn't just protection. It's not just surveillance or logistics. Your job is to see." He let the word hang there. To see what's really happening, when everything around you is moving too fast to see what's beneath the surface, even when your instincts scream at you to react. A hand went up. "Sir, how do you train for that?" the trainee asked. "Staying calm, I mean." Quentin smiled just slightly. "You don't train for calm," he said. "You train for clarity. And clarity doesn't come from ego. It comes from patience, from listening, from knowing that if you're right, you don't have to shout." After the session, a few lingered behind. One young woman approached quietly, Asian American, maybe 5'3", early 20s, voice soft but direct. "My brother saw your video," she said. "He doesn't trust law enforcement at all. But when he saw how you handled it, he said, maybe not all of them. I just wanted you to know." Quentin nodded once. "Thank you." He didn't need validation. But moments like that, they meant something. That evening, Quentin sat on the back porch of his hotel room, sipping water, watching the sky fade from orange to navy. His phone buzzed. A national op-ed had just gone live, publishing his full statement. It called his words measured, powerful, and long overdue. He didn't read the article. Instead, he sent a message to Breyer. "Keep asking questions. That's how we fix things. Love you." Seconds later, she replied with a photo of a drawing. It showed Quentin in a suit, standing next to a police officer. Above them, in thick crayon letters, she'd written, "Be better than what they expect." He smiled, not because everything was fixed, not because it didn't still hurt, but because she got it. She understood. Some stories don't end. They just keep teaching. This one taught a few lessons. That respect without bias is a choice. That silence doesn't always mean weakness. It can be strength. That dignity doesn't need volume to be heard. And maybe most of all, doing your job well isn't enough. You have to carry it with character, even when the world's pointing a weapon at you. Because the moment no one believes in you, that's when your real badge shows. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you believe in truth over noise, subscribe for more. Because stories like this deserve to be told.